TG Geeks episode 280, June 29th, 2020. Law degrees to paranormal romance. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the two gay geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery, sci-fi, comics, film, horror genre. You name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane, and we're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely, it's getting hotter than heck, surface of the sun, Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington, coming to you from a place that's beginning to feel like hell in terms of the weather. Phoenix, Arizona.
Exactly. Hell's orientation, as
Yes.
Jeannie would say.
Hell's orientation.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be right.
Let's get on with it.
Prepare for hyperdrive.
Meanwhile, in the Hall of Episodes, the two gay geeks are discussing this.
Well, in this episode, we are going to talk to Kim Fielding. She is an author, and she was another one that was recommended or came to us through Scott Coatsworth. And then we're going to have our birthday shout-outs, our podcast of the week, everyone's favorite feedback, and some more shout-outs. And then in our second segment, we've got a couple of things to talk about.
I hope we have time to talk about those.
And then a weekly recap and to wrap it all up. So let's get on with the interview. And this time we welcome to the show Kim Fielding, an author that came to us through Scott Coatsworth. Gosh, my brain just stopped working all of a sudden.
Yeah, I heard the gears just freeze up. It was quite the sound.
You heard the screeching.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, Kim.
Thanks so much. I'm really delighted to be here.
Yeah. So why don't you, as I said, you were an author, but for our listeners, why don't you give them a kind of the elevator pitch, as if you were going to the top of the Empire State Building, of your life to this point and how you kind of got into writing.
That's always this can never be an elevator pitch. That's a tough one for authors to not, give their whole biography at that point. But I've been writing since I was a little kid. My day job is academic, so I do academic writing. But I've always had this secret aspiration to be a fiction writer, and I started off, about maybe 15 years ago or so, writing fan fiction. It was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It was Spike. It was Flash fan fiction. I had a lot of fun with it, and it gave me a lot of confidence. It gave me a lot of practice and a lot of feedback, and I met some great people, and I eventually got enough confidence to try and share my original fiction with people. So I think my first novel was published, I'm thinking it must have been about 8 or 9 years ago now, and I just published my 28th novel.
Whoa!
Come a long way.
That's amazing. Yeah,
Someone's being prolific.
Yeah. Exactly. When I looked at your website, you said that you like to make lists, and you have a list there. And there were some really interesting things on that list. Like, you have, 27 postgraduate degrees?
3 graduate degrees.
3, sorry.
Still,
It only feels like 27 someday.
Exactly. You spent so many years.
But let's not minimize that. 3
That's
graduate degrees.
amazing.
Holy smokes. Not to mention the fact you're a member of the Nebraska State Bar. Okay, I'm feeling like really insignificant, and my inferiority complex is kind of like screaming at me right now.
I don't know that being a member of the Nebraska Bar has ever impressed anybody before, so that's great.
Well, we have a friend who is he's a lawyer, and he started out as higher mathematics, and then he got his graduate degree in 13th century colloquial Chinese literature.
Can we get any more fringe?
Yeah. He said it's easy to be number one in your field when you're the only one in the field. And then he went on to get his JD, and actually was a member of the Order of the Coif, so he was top, and a very good lawyer. And so we tease people about that, because he's one of those genius, insane people, Which side of the line is he on today?
Yeah. But recognizing the fact that you're a member of the Nebraska State Bar, I mean, because we know what's involved in getting that. So we're able to take a step back and say, holy cow, that's really great, Yeah. I mean, you've got some, nice little accolades right there. And it's like somebody were to come up to me and say, so, gee, Ben, what about you? I have a podcast.
Yeah. But we do,
I think we all find in our own ways. I don't know.
Yeah. So tell us about what genre do you write in, or do you write in multiple genres? And
I think I write in all the genres.
All of them.
All of them.
Wow.
There's probably one or two I haven't hit. I guess what I've written the most of is gay romance. But within that, I've got historicals. I write a lot of spec fic. I've got contemporaries. Lately I've been on a noir kick. I mean, so almost you name it, I've written it.
Wow.
You'd mentioned that recently, you've been on a gay romance, or at least a lot of your work has been gay romance. What was the allure to want to go down that particular avenue?
I don't know. I started off, I was writing flash fan fiction, and I guess the transition from that to gay romance is a fairly smooth one. And I enjoyed reading it. I mean, there's just some really great stories. I was never a huge romance fan, a huge het romance fan, but gay romance felt to me, I think they're changing in het romance, but gay romance has always felt to me much freer and broader, and there's just so much more interesting ways to go than traditional het romance. So, and those are just the characters who spoke to me.
Yeah, we usually ask that question of women that write gay romance, because 99% of those write gay romance are women, and they've all say kind of the same thing, that they're not tied to that quote unquote romance method or theme, or
not like a Harlequin romance that was really huge in the 70s and 80s kind of thing.
Your character doesn't have to do this and this and this and this and this, and then fall on the fainting couch, and blah blah blah, all of that. So.
A lot of the traditional romances were very formulaic, and which is fine if that's what people are enjoying. I don't want to put those down, because a lot of people really love them. But personally, I felt really frustrated with them. I felt like the roles were I couldn't relate to any of the characters, male or female, and I felt as if it was just way too structured. Yeah, and I'm not big on categories and structure all the time.
Right.
Yeah, we spoke to another author about, and she almost echoed the very thing that, or you echoed pretty much what she said. She was trying to write this romance, and she was trying to go through publishers, and they said, well, if you're doing straight romance, you have to have these things. And it was so paint by numbers. So I can't do that. Because now you're stifling the writer. I mean, now you're really impinging on their creativity. So I see why a lot of authors now, especially women, are really going to the same-sex romance area, and that is such a wide field to go down too. Because I read a lot of paranormal same-sex romance books. I mean, okay, yeah, I admit it, I'm guilty, and I eat it while I'm having my yogurt. So yes, that's me.
And yes, I just started that because of his interest in that. And then we talked to Angel Martinez last week.
It's addictive, isn't it?
It really is. And her what was it? The Offbeat Crime series. Oh my God, it's incredible. It's paranormal, But
there really is something very addictive, especially when you start getting into genre areas, be it sci-fi, fantasy, paranormal. Especially, for me, paranormal is like that's the bee's knees for me. When you start reading paranormal same-sex romance, it's like crack. I just can't stop reading this stuff. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Some nights we'll say, let's turn the TV off.
We're just going to read.
Let's just read for a while. So tell us about...
Well, that's something I like to hear as a writer.
Yeah. So tell us about the gay romance novels that you've written. Just highlight a couple, or your favorite, or whatever, and then we'll talk about. I know I saw that on your website that you have something current. So we'll segue into that in a moment.
Okay. So I guess some of my, a couple of my most popular ones, one of them is a fantasy, and it was one of the first ones I published. It's called Brute, and it takes place in an imaginary medieval fantasy world with magic. And I wrote that one because I kept hearing people say that romance leads have to be handsome and rich, and I wanted to write a romance lead who wasn't. So my main character, Brute, he's ugly, he's poor, he's uneducated, loses a hand, and it was a lot of fun to write, but it also, everybody loves this character. I think it's still one of my biggest sellers. It's in 5 languages. There's a really great audio version of it, and people fell in love with this character who, according to the rules, shouldn't be a romantic lead, and that makes me really happy because I like breaking those kinds of rules.
Cool.
So that's one of my favorites. Another one of my favorites is Rattlesnake, where, again, I broke the rules because the lead in that one's a contemporary, and the lead he's in his early 40s, which is old for romance, and he's a drifter. And so, he's not the billionaire or anything like that. And again, people really connect with him. And I personally really love having heroes who are non-traditional heroes, because I like the message that, anybody can find love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That seems to be a growing thing now in writing. I'm seeing a lot of writers that are writing characters that are completely against type. And I think the real positive thing about that is it speaks to a community of people out there that have not been able to really relate to a lot of stories. And some of the things that I read, the stories that I'm looking at, these characters, I've read about one character, he just worked at a bar because he just couldn't get his life together. And I'm like, I can sort of relate to this guy. I'm not a bartender,
Right.
but I get the fact that he just has not been able to get his life together, that he's got problems with his family, that he's got problems with this and that and the other thing. I'm like, I can understand him, and that allows me to better relate to the story in general. So I definitely think there's a growing trend in being able to write characters that are completely against type, especially when you're doing, like a romance novel, whether it be hetero or same sex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, and I think it's really great because it's kind of implicitly sending the message that love is love, and everyone's deserving of it, and I think that's a great message to have.
Exactly. So, like I said, I looked at your website. I don't have it up now. Go to current release. Ben has it up on his computer.
There's newest release.
Yeah, newest release. So, tell us about that book.
This one looks like Refugees.
That one is not actually the newest release because my website person, who is my husband, has not updated my website.
He hasn't kept up with his chores, huh?
Oops.
No, he has not. I was just yelling at him about it last night while he was binge watching The Outlander, I think, on TV. So I had to look.
Why haven't you updated my website?
Well, he was watching. Well, he's watching Outlander, with the shirtless Scottish guy, and I was working, and I think that's important. So, shows my dedication to my craft. But the book, I have a new book that just came out on Monday, so that one's not up there, and that one is called Conned. It's actually the 6th book in a series, although this particular series you can read them independently. And this book, this is one I mentioned. I've been in a noir mode, so it was influenced a lot by Maltese Falcon, and it takes place in San Francisco in 1928. And the characters are a private eye and a magician, but it's also a paranormal. The whole series is paranormal. So there's ghosts and various other.
I'm looking at the Amazon listing at it right now, and gotta admit, Okay, this looks kind of. I gotta.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Our Kindle's going to explode again.
Again for the fifth time.
Every time we talk to somebody, it's like, oh my gosh!
Well, now I have to
like
download their
12
entire
new books I have to read.
Yeah. My list ever groweth. But yeah, I like this
Mine
one.
too.
A magician and a medium conning his audiences into believing he can cheat death. I mean, okay, this could be fun. So, okay, there we go.
I had so much fun writing that book. It was a ton of fun to write. And because I am an enormous nerd, I really enjoyed doing the research. So, you have to do a lot of research if you're going to set something in the 20s. And so research on magicians, research on San Francisco in the 20s, all that kind of stuff. And it was just a ton of fun to write.
Well, I'm glad you said that, about doing the research, because the one thing that I love is reading a story in a universe that is believable to me. And it doesn't matter if it's set in the 20s or if it's set during today.
Or in outer space.
Or in outer space.
Another planet.
But if you can create an environment or create a universe that, in terms of literature, actually makes some kind of sense, whether it be pure fantasy or pure sci-fi or real world, it helps me as the reader to become more invested into that story that the author's trying to tell us. Now, as I look at this book, it says it's the Bureau book number 6. So tell us about the Bureau.
So the Bureau it's the Bureau of Transspecies Affairs, and it's alternate world. It's pretty much like ours, only there's paranormal stuff in it. And the Bureau is a federal agency, kind of like the FBI, but they deal with paranormal stuff. And so each book in the series actually takes place in a different decade and has a different primary couple in it, but all of them involve in some way agents for the Bureau who are dealing with various supernatural affairs. So one of them has a vampire, one of them has an angel and a demon, one of them has evil magic boxes.
Wow. That's
evil magic boxers? Whoa, okay.
Boxes, not boxers.
Oh,
I was going to say,
says.
evil magic boxers.
I'm like, okay, well, that's weird.
Kind of fun.
Now it's a new idea for a book.
Yeah, we just planted a seed. You heard it here first, people.
Oh, dear. So this is really fascinating. And I'm going to point at Ben to ask his question.
Well,
he has a question of all authors.
Well, and this really works best when when authors are writing like a series, especially if you have a returning character, because then it tends to really happen a lot. But I've noticed that a lot of authors, they tend to have their characters sort of come to life in their heads after a while. They live with them for a while. And especially, like I said, if it's a repeating character or repeating characters, then those voices become insanely loud, as we've learned from a number of authors that we've spoken to. How alive do these characters become to you? I mean, do they really take on a life of their own in your head?
They absolutely do. And I mean, I get angry at them, for doing.
I want to write it this way.
Yeah, there have been times, when one of my characters is doing something stupid, and I just want to strangle them, which is really dumb because I'm the one making them do something stupid. But they feel absolutely real. And I've had, when I've finished a book, I miss them. It's like my friends have gone away, so they feel absolutely real in my head. This is kind of an embarrassing story, but it's not just the characters who feel real, but their entire world. And that book Rattlesnake I mentioned before takes place in an imaginary town in California, in the Sierra foothills, and it's kind of based on a real town. And a couple of years ago, my family and I were driving up there for the weekend to the real town. And I started talking to my family about how, we definitely need to have breakfast at that great restaurant. And they're all kind of looking at me. And after I talked for a while, I realized it was my imaginary restaurant and it doesn't exist.
Oh.
And not only is that embarrassing, and I started questioning my own sanity, but it was really disappointing because it's a great restaurant.
Oh, dang.
We have just reached a new level here, people. Because the funny thing is, I was about to ask you the question. When you're writing your stories, does it seem like you're taking dictation? But you've just taken this to a whole new level that I find so beautifully delightful.
That is, wow. I think you broke me with that.
My world's take on the life of the road. We'll leave it at that.
Wow. That is something else.
But again, though, I think that's going to speak to the quality of the worlds that you create, because if they can become that much alive in a person's writing, then that is something that the reader is definitely going to be picking up. They're going to sense they'll feel the details. They'll be able to smell the smells and hear the sounds and see the sights as you have written them, because they're so alive in your head, there will be some almost visceral details to that. And I think we're really seeing that now in a lot of, especially in a lot of, paranormal or any kind of fictional writing. And that's something I've really grown to appreciate.
Yeah, and I think that's really key to making readers connect to a story is if the author can make it feel not just three-dimensional but multisensory. If you know things like, that doorknob creaks when you turn it and this room smells a particular way, those are the things that if that feels real in an author's head, it's going to feel real in readers' heads too. And you don't have to necessarily spend, nobody wants pages and pages and pages of that stuff, but just even putting in a few of those details can really make these things spring to life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what is next for Kim?
That's going to be next.
Kim Fielding, are you in the middle of several books, or do you do one book at a time, or how do you...
I generally write one book at a time, although I make a few exceptions, like if I'm co-writing with someone. So right now I am writing a Christmas story with a vampire, of course.
Ooh.
And I'm also co-writing with Shira Anthony. We're co-writing a contemporary romance.
Cool.
Very nice. So with all of that, and holy cow, I mean, I'd love to talk to you some more, because you're amazing. You are very interesting. I love how your mind works. And I can already tell
you fit right in with us.
Yeah, you've got a delightful sense of humor. Let me ask, how much humor does appear? Because talking to you, I see you definitely have a really sharp sense of humor. Does humor appear to any of your stuff? Because that's something that I love to read too.
It's in almost all of it. I mean, at least I think it's funny. I don't know if anybody else does. But I think even in a really serious book, and I've got some books that are really angsty, but the humor's still in there in parts, because you need that, and I think that's part of life. And I try not to take myself too seriously anyway. So yeah, I'd say humor plays, at least stuff I think is funny, is in almost all my books.
Great. Cool. So with all this literature that you've got, where can people find your work?
I am K Fielding Writes almost everywhere. So my website is kfieldingwrites.com. On Facebook, I'm K Fielding Writes. On Twitter, I'm K Fielding Writes. On Instagram, I'm K Fielding Writes. So that'll get you to me everywhere. And
that pretty much answers your social media question. You're on Twitter, Facebook, places like that.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm pretty much where I need to be, I think.
That's great. And then I assume all of the outlets, Amazon, Goodreads, and all of that.
Yeah, Amazon, Goodreads. Yeah. I publish both through traditional publishers, and I self-publish. So you can find my stuff on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, pretty much all the publishers. And I've got quite a few books on audio. I just finished yesterday listening to some audio proofs on a new book, so I'm very excited about that. So I've got a lot on audio. I've got stuff in translation, so I think I'm pretty easy to find.
Cool.
Great.
This has been really fascinating. Thank you for being on the show, Kim Fielding.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
This is Chuck Tomasi, author of Podcasting for Dummies and host of Technorama, the podcast for geeks. And you are listening to the Two Gay Geeks, because geek is better than cool.
Well,
I love that interview with her.
It was just delightful.
It really was. And one of the things that I know that Patricia Chica has said this about us, and that is that we managed to get stories out of the people we talked to, and I think we got really one heck of a great story on that one. I mean, I was so tickled by that.
It was so funny. That restaurant's really good.
It's really nice. Oh, crap. It's not real.
It doesn't exist.
God, that was so joyous. I loved it.
Here's a few selected birthdays for June 29th, 2020 through July 5th, 2020. June 29th, Gary Busey, actor, big breakout Buddy Holly story. Mm-hmm. I remember Gary Busey.
Oh, wow.
From 1971. In the Uncanny Film Festival and Camp Meeting, Dr. Mazeppa Pompazoide, who was Gaylord Sartain, and that was on KTUL-TV 8. And Gaylord Sartain was the sheriff on Hee Haw.
Right.
He was also Chuck or something, I can't remember, but he was a sidekick of Ernest.
Oh, of course.
In several of the movies, and as well as a number of other bit parts and character things. But Gary Busey was on that show, and once he started on the show, they had, halfway through the season, it really took off from there because he was Teddy Jack Eddy.
That's the name. I was trying to think.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember his character's name.
Yeah, Teddy Jack Eddy. And it was crazy. Now, Uncanny Film Festival and Camp Meeting was the midnight monster movie
thing. Yeah,
yeah.
I think
as well as Busby Berkeley musicals.
Oh, which had Busby Berkeley musicals? Yeah. How utterly warped!
It was.
My God, I didn't know that. Yeah. I mean, because I know that a lot of regional, television shows, local TV affiliates, the small independent channels, they always had their own little, Friday or Saturday night, midnight monster thing or whatever. So I'm very intrigued with the idea of Mazeppa, but Busby Berkeley musicals?
Every once in a while. I don't think they actually showed them, but they did little clips from them throughout for skits and in between.
So it was material.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but Gary Busey graduated from Nathan Hale High School in Tulsa, and he played the drums. He's a rather gifted drummer.
I've heard that.
In played for Leon Russell.
Yeah, he's been in a few bands.
Chris Christopherson and Willie Nelson. So, and his son is a spitting image of him.
Oh my God, yeah, and it's really become quite. His son's really made a big name for himself as an actor as well.
Yep. And then we have Ray Harryhausen, director, producer, visual effects, many films. His first job was with George Powell.
Oh, I'm not surprised because George Powell's sci-fi films utilized a lot of stop motion. I'm trying to think which one it might be. I'm going to guess it's Earth versus the Flying Saucers.
May have been. And as a teenager, he met Ray Bradbury and Forrest J. Ackerman at a science fiction club in Los Angeles, and they became lifelong friends.
Not surprised.
Yep. He hated the Godzilla movies and the Japanese monster movies.
Oh, well, not everybody's perfect.
Just hated them.
Well.
Because he thought they were, it goes into a long story, but he hated them so much that if a fan walked up with a Godzilla t-shirt or something, he would reject them.
Oh, that's harsh. That's a bit stiff, Ray. Come on.
Well, anyway, so that interesting enough. Then we have Bernard Herrmann, composer. He was the orchestrator on Psycho, Citizen Kane, Vertigo, TV composer of tons of stock music for Lost in Space, Perry Mason, Twilight Zone. I wrote the music for Day the Earth Stood Still.
Interestingly enough.
Yep. And then we have John Hench, Disney Imagineer. 65 years he worked for Walt Disney.
Wow.
It's amazing. He worked with Salvador Dali on that the Destino, the film, which was a fascinating film.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Lead designer for Tomorrowland. He designed Space Mountain.
Oh, that's his?
Yeah.
Oh, far out.
And then we have Facebook friend Matt Ian Kelly.
Wait a minute.
UK.
No, wait.
Where am I?
We're still on June 29th.
It's June 29th.
So now I got to move to June 30th.
Now we got to move to June 30th. Sorry,
Okay.
I scrolled too fast. Vincent D'Onofrio, actor. He was Edgar in Men in Black.
Yes, he was.
Edgar said.
Yeah.
And he was also Wilson Fisk in.
That's probably one of his more popular roles, I
exactly.
think, and more recently. I was doing an article on him a couple of years ago, and he did a movie that was so horrifyingly disgusting that I could only refer to it, and I refused to. I refused to post the video in the article because it was so utterly disgusting. I mean, the guy is dark.
Yeah.
He likes to take on some just really awful roles from time to time.
Yep. And then we have Rupert Graves, an actor. He was Lestrade in Sherlock. And he first came to my attention. He was Alex Scudder in Morris.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Really very handsome man.
Oh, yes. I didn't realize it was
Yep.
Rupert Graves. Huh.
Yep. And then Lena Horne, singer, actress. Oh, my gosh. What a voice. What a talent.
Yeah.
And most popular song was Stormy Weather. And she was also a civil rights activist. She was at the march in Washington in 1964 with Dr. King. And now we have Matt Ian Kelly over in the UK. Happy birthday. And Andrew Johnson Schmidt, Tammy Thornton Turney, who was a classmate of mine, and Jane Fennessy. She's Arizona Opera, one of our friends from Arizona Opera. July 1st, Twyla Tharp, dancer. She did the choreography for Amadeus and influential in the modern dance movement. Then we have David Prowse, actor, who, what did it say? He inhabited the costume of Darth Vader.
Inhabited it. He gave life to the costume. Poor
Exactly.
fellow, when he was doing when he was filming what will become episode 4, he actually thought that he would provide the speaking voice. He learned all the lines. He learned the entire script like a proper actor should, and then finds out that he was being dubbed.
He didn't find out until he saw the movie
film
in the theater
God.
at the premiere.
Ouch.
Oops. Dan Aykroyd. Actually, he trained Christopher Reeve for his role in
Oh, the Superman. That's right. Because David Prowse was a bodybuilder.
Exactly. And then we have Dan Aykroyd, actor, Saturday Night Live, Ghostbusters, Blues Brothers. He was the co-founder and owner of House of Blues.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Interesting. And then we have Facebook friend Dawn Smith and Dusty Sage, a.k.a. Todd Reagan of Mice Chat. July 2nd, Saul Rubinek, actor, Frasier, Warehouse 13, SG1, TNG. Oh, my gosh.
He was in a lot of television.
Yep, a lot. And then we have Brock Peters, interestingly enough.
We just saw him in an episode of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, we're on a rewatch of Deep Space Nine, so it's interesting. We keep running across these things. He tons and tons and tons of TV. Oh my Lord! Night Gallery, Bionic Woman, Battlestar Galactica '79.
I don't remember him in Galactica.
Yeah,
Huh.
I can't remember the character, but
I'll have to look that up. I don't
also
remember.
Star Trek movies.
Oh yeah, I mean he's quite.
TNG,
He really
Deep Space
made
Nine.
a name for himself in the Star Trek franchise, playing primarily two different parts.
Cisco's dad.
And he played an admiral.
Cartwright.
Admiral Cartwright, that's the
Yep,
name. Yes.
Yep. And then we have, the interesting thing about him, he sang background on Harry Belafonte's Banana Boat song.
No, he did.
Yeah.
Oh, that's far out.
Yep. And then we have Christophe Willibald Gluck, who is a composer of French and Italian opera. 1767, I think. Somewhere in there was when he wrote Orfeo et Eurydice, which was 150 years after, however you want to say it, after Monteverdi's Orfeo. And that one nobody ever knows. Everybody knows Gluck's.
Yeah.
And he was influential in adding more dramatization to opera versus what would be probably referred to today as the park and bark method, where you just stand there and sing. But he added that. And there was a big push for that, but he put it into all of his operas and made a sea change, shall we say. July 3rd, Kurtwood Smith.
Speaking of Star Trek,
actor, Star Trek Undiscovered Country.
Played the president of the United Federation of Planets.
Deep Space Nine, Voyager.
I don't remember him in Deep Space Nine. I do remember him in Voyager. That was in the episode Year from Hell.
Yeah. And Agent Carter, and then That 70s Show.
Oh, yes.
Interesting thing, his mother was fascinated by a country singer named Kurt something. So that's how he got the name. And she decided that there were too many people named Kurt, so she just added the word wood on the end of his name.
So he's Kurtwood.
Yep.
Well, it certainly is unique.
Tacked it on there. And then we have Leos Janáček. Composer, one of the most influential Czech composers. Early music was inspired by Dvorak. And as he matured, he went back to his early studies. He had studied folk music and Czech folk music and the regional music in that time and incorporated those styles into his later works. Most popular operas are Jenůfa and Katya Kabanova. Dave Barry, which I didn't have on here.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God, writer. Humor and satire. Oh, crazy and bizarre look at life. Mm-hmm. And just everything was just insane. And I used to live to read his column.
I think a lot of people did.
Oh, my gosh. And then we have a friend of ours, Missy Gunnels Catano. Happy birthday, Missy. July 4th, Rube Goldberg. What do you say about Rube Goldberg?
I'm going to leave that one to you.
Cartoonist, engineer, inventor. Most Rube Goldberg machines were machines that performed simple tasks in indirect, convoluted ways. Mm-hmm. The game Mousetrap.
Mousetrap is it's all based on Rube Goldberg.
Yep. And my grandfather was sort of a Rube Goldberg, although he didn't do things in complicated, convoluted ways, but he used a little bit of this and a little bit of that to make things work correctly. So he was definitely in that vein. And then we have Vincent Schaefer. He was a chemist and meteorologist. He developed cloud seeding, ultimately responsible for chemtrails.
Ah, so that's how we managed to grow our gay community.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
We can thank him for that.
Yep. And then we have former coworker Tierney Stirewalt and good friend Joanne Cohen. July 5th, Megan Rapinoe, women's soccer, outspoken lesbian soccer player. In 2019, she started a gender-neutral lifestyle brand called Re-Inc. And then we have, speaking of Star Trek again, Ronald D. Moore, producer, TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Battlestar Galactica, and several Star Trek movies. So.
And he was also quite the writer.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, writer, producer, director, man of jack of all trades.
He really wore a lot of hats.
Exactly. So that is it for the birthdays this time.
This is Holly. You're tuned in to Krypton Radio. It's sci-fi for your Wi-Fi.
Go give a listen to our friends over at Krypton Radio, a 24-hour geeky internet radio station where Gene Turnbow is the station manager.
I'm Daniel Radcliffe, and I believe that reaching out for help is the bravest thing a person can do. If you are struggling and need support, call the Trevor Lifeline at 1-866-488-7386. It's free and confidential, and trained counselors are there to listen 24/7 without judgment. To learn more about the Trevor Project's life-saving work for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or questioning young people, go to thetrevorproject.org.
And it is time for our feedback. And I should point out that all of the things that we're going to talk about, we will have the links for these articles in our show notes on our website for this episode, number 280, at tggeeks.com. Starting with, referring to TG Geeks episode number 276, we got a comment from Donovan Holden. We interviewed him some time back. It was his birthday, and he says, thanks, Geeks. And then we got a comment from Mrs. Summers, Keith's niece. And we had interviewed, goodness.
Your niece as
and
well.
Well, my niece too, my niece-in-law, I suppose you could call it. Who did we interview again?
I don't remember.
He was it was an independent filmmaker about ballet. It's because the name's not ringing a bell.
Yeah, I can't. Oh, dang it.
Yeah, I'm feeling very embarrassed that we don't remember his name.
What the episode was.
Oh, well,
anyway,
the man, he was a composer and he did a movie about ballet and fantasy. Anyway, she says, oh, wow, as someone who loves music and did music and ballet for many years, this film sounds incredible and captivating. Can't wait to see it. So I'm going to say this to you.
The pianist or
the accompanist.
Accompanist, yes.
That's it, the accompanist. So, Mrs. Summers.
Frederick Keeve.
Thank you. So, Summers, tell us what you thought of it. I'd like to know. And then moving on, regarding 5 questions with Naomi McDougall-Jones. Actually, that was from over a year ago. And someone, I'm not even sure where this comment came from. Her name is Akasada Kata. I don't know where I found this comment, but she simply said, enjoyed this interview. Well done and thanks. And then moving on, regarding TG Geeks episode number 277, got a comment from Kathy Rippey Falconberry, and it was her birthday. She says, thank you so very much. And then we got a comment from Arkle, and of course we were interviewing the director of the documentary You Don't Know Me about the movie Showgirls. And Arkle says, I would recommend this video on Showgirls. He gives us a link for it. He says, it's part of the host's ongoing series where he seeks to review every single movie that won the Worst Picture Award at the Razzies. And the show is called Cinematic Express, and it was episode number 122 where he talks about Showgirls. I suppose I can include the link to that in the show notes as well. Got a comment from Barbara Dillon, and it was her birthday. She says, thanks so very much. And then to close this off, this is regarding Ben's Gay Breakdown. We're Here shows the true power of drag. Got a comment from the showrunner, Johnny Ingram, and he says, Ben, this is truly an amazing read. Read it aloud to Stephen, his husband, this morning, and it made us cry. So thoughtful each moment you pulled. You've captured the heart of the show so well. We can't believe how much love the show has gotten, but hopeful to grow even more into a big hit. We want everyone from all backgrounds can see how valuable the LGBTQ community, how important visibility and celebrating individuality is, and how we are all beautiful for just the way you are. Thanks again for using your platform to spread the word. Apologies again for my technical challenges. I finally signed onto my computer for the first time in 2 weeks, and that helped. Looking forward to crying reading the season 2 review. And he signs it from Johnny and Steven. And yes, We're Here got a second season renewal. Yay. And we are so happy to see where that show is going to go.
That could be really fun.
It'll be amazing. Yep. And that is our feedback for this week.
And you can leave a comment on our Facebook page or tggeeks.com on each individual article or episode. You can also comment on our YouTube episodes or at Twitter and Instagram. We also have a listener feedback line, so if you want to leave us a voicemail, we'll play that on air, and you can be famous too. How about that? Call us at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. And as always, please play nice. Well, as everybody knows, we are huge supporters of independent creators, whether it's filmmakers, comic book artists, writers, or others. During this great pause. Take a look at those independent creators. Take their websites, their Instagram pages, their Twitter pages, their Facebook pages, all of that kind of stuff. Find out more about the people that you like. Tell other people about independent creators. Buy their stuff if they have an option to buy things through their website or on Amazon or wherever you find their stuff. And please support independent creators. The Joshua Tree Feeding Program is a 501c3 nonprofit food pantry for the HIV/AIDS community in Maricopa and Pinal counties, and they are set up just like a store, so clients can pick and choose the food they prefer, so it empowers the clients and no food is wasted. They could certainly use your help right now, and you can go to their website and you can do a monthly recurring gift, or you can give a single gift. Go to jtfp.org. If you are trans or are questioning your gender identity, and if you are in crisis or are feeling isolated and need someone to talk to, or you know of someone in a similar situation, there is a special hotline just for you. The hotline is provided by translifeline.org and staffed by trained counselors who are transgender themselves. The hotline in the U.S. is 877-565-8860. In Canada, it is 877-330-6366. Or you can go to translifeline.org to learn about the important work they are doing. Please reach out for help. You are not alone.
Yeah, baby. They're like two gay geeks. They're together, you know. They're two gay guys and they're geeks. Is that okay?
Well, we got time to talk about two things that I think are really important, especially in this Pride Month that we're in.
As we come to the end of Pride Month.
Come to end of Pride Month, yeah.
Trying to do some things and do some watching of various things that we wanted to watch for Pride.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of them, starting off, there was an amazing series that still is on Hulu, Love, Victor. This is basically a sequel series to the movie Love, Simon, which was a huge hit.
Huge hit, yes.
That movie really was just a beautiful film. And so the creators of that came about and did a series that's a sequel to it, Love, Victor, which, holy cow, just finished watching that the other night. And wow, what are your thoughts?
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was, it pushed so many buttons.
I think that was the point.
It was touching. It was romantic. It was
real.
Real. It was a testament to how things have changed today versus when you and I were growing up.
Oh my goodness!
And you know, I think I got verklempt many times.
I did too.
Just from
the first episode wrecked me.
Yeah, just from the fact of I wish that I could have lived in an environment like that when I was growing up and struggling to come out. You know, and it was really nice to see, and the cast is fabulous. I mean, it really is. I don't think that there's any one cast member that is a weak link in any of it.
No, it is a very well-balanced cast. And one of the things that I think is so important in that, you just mentioned that you wished that when you were growing up, and I feel the same way, that it could have been a more welcoming environment.
Yeah.
You look at the environment that, both Love, Simon and Love, Victor, it is actually a much more welcoming environment, especially the high school. At Creekwood High. It is a very welcoming environment, and yet neither Simon nor Victor, in Simon's movie and in Victor's TV series, neither of those characters felt that they could come out.
Right.
They were both terrified to do that. And I think this really paints a very honest light about the difficulties in, especially the youth,
Right.
in trying to find that self-acceptance to the point where they can actually say those words, I am gay, or I am bi, or I am transgendered, whatever it is that they are, to be able to find that courage within them to be able to make that confession.
Right.
This movie, the series shows that even in a very opening environment, it is still a very terrifying thing to make that claim.
Yeah, and it really, this first season was not just about Victor and his coming out story and his struggles, but members of the other cast too. I mean,
they all have their own
Felix,
challenges.
oh my Lord, and Lake and all of them. We got to see behind the curtain, behind their eyes, behind their facade that they put up, and to see their life and to be able to identify with them and identify with, I won't say their mental illness, but maybe the mental illness that surrounds them and the odd environment in which all of them live.
There's a lot of dysfunctionality in their backgrounds that they come from. And it's one of the things that I really like about Love, Victor, and I kind of think that maybe the showrunners had that in mind.
Yeah.
Because Love, Simon, Simon has his own little, his circle of friends, but the movie is really all about him.
Right.
He is the entire focus, and he is, if I remember correctly, the character of Simon is pretty much on screen like 99.9% of the time. With Love, Victor, you're really splitting your time a lot. There is a lot of time spent with Victor's parents and the struggles that they're going through. As you pointed out, there's this the struggles that Felix has, and we really don't get a good look at that until towards the very end of the season, and we see what kind of problems his family life is all about. Same thing with Lake. I mean, that was a big eye-opener about Lake's family.
Yeah.
And here is a character that I thought was just ridiculously shallow when we first meet her. And by the end
there's so much more to all of them.
A lot of them have so much incredible depth. Yeah. It's such a beautiful show, and it speaks not just to Victor and his ability to find self-acceptance, but for everybody in every walk of life to be able to find their own element of self-acceptance. I mean, I think the show is amazing. I have not read any confirmation about a season 2 yet. I haven't looked, but I keep hearing rumblings of a season 2. I think it's still too early because the entire series just dropped.
Right.
So it's too soon. I think they're going to count the numbers and decide if this show is worthy enough for it, but I hope it gets it.
Yeah, I do too. I just have to say one more thing about Felix. He is so wise.
Felix is terribly smart.
He's so...
Very, very, very wise,
He's such a goofball character. I mean, he's just so goofy but endearingly goofy.
I think the goofiness is his coping mechanism.
Exactly.
But
very wise.
Beneath that is a whole lot of wisdom. Yeah. I wrote a 3-episode review after I watched the first 3 episodes of the series, and I said Felix is the best friend that every person deserves to have.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody not just deserves, everybody needs to have a best friend like Felix.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and then we got to talk about this.
Oh my gosh.
One of our favorite movies.
Oh, wow.
Such a beautiful, it's called Big Eden.
Yes, and we saw that at the Gay Lesbian Film Festival. My God, when it came out.
Mm-hmm. It was an independent film.
It's an independent film. The director was there. Bazooka. Oh, shoot. What's his first name?
I can't recall his name.
But Big Eden is so charming, and it was just... It's touching.
It's a very touching film, and we've title, seen it, oh my God, myriad of times. And the title is sort of a pun, because not only is the community called Big Eden, but take the name Eden and what it represents.
Yeah.
What does that mean in terms of as a cultural reference, and then apply that to a modern sensibility? And that's what this community is, because this movie is utterly devoid of any homophobia.
Yeah.
It is. It is not there.
Yeah. I mean, it is a fantastical and it's a fantasy, but it's a wonderful,
set in the real world.
It's a wonderful fantasy, where everybody is accepting, and two characters or two big names, Louise Fletcher, who actually Thomas Bazooka is the director. She did this film as a favor to him. She knew him, or he knew her. And
she didn't want to do it because she's so popular and she has a lot of experience playing bad people,
and she just didn't.
She didn't know how to play a nice person.
Overshadow any.
How do you play a nice person? She didn't know how to do it, and I thought she was adorable as Grace.
And then George Coe.
Oh yeah,
and
who recently passed away.
Oh my gosh! And then the widow Thayer. Oh my God, she's a force of nature.
She's a force of nature. I mean, she's a tornado. I mean, she's a Tasmanian devil. But with such a big heart.
Yes.
I mean, everybody in this movie is absolutely delightful, and I've said
it's a love story.
It is a love story,
and it takes lots of twists and turns, and.
But it's more than just the love story between our main character.
Yeah.
It's also a story of
family.
hope and family. I like
and
to think
what
of it,
does extended family mean?
right. But I think it also is it's a movie about community.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be part of the alphabet people in order to be a part of community. It's simply a matter of choice. And that's what I loved about this film. And I remember saying as we were watching it, I mean, I'm a big city guy. I always have been, and I always will be. However, if a small little community, and this is a small community, of Big Eden ever existed, I don't think I'd ever want to leave there, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Because everybody there is just so unbelievably lovely.
Go take a look at it. It's Big Eden is the name of the film.
I'm going to run down some of the things, all the things that we ran on our website at tggeeks.com, and we'll have the links for each of these things in the show notes for this episode at tggeeks.com, starting with Sunday, June 21st, Nerdy Chupacabras #1 from Tommy Cannon.
From Tommy Cannon.
Yes, this is a new thing.
He said he was running out of Dr. Monster jokes.
Yeah, Dr. Zombie. Yeah, Dr. Zombie closed office. Who knows what kind of nefarious experiments he's going to be doing. So we're going to be looking at a couple of really just wacky Nerdy Chupacabras for a while now.
George and Carl.
Yes. And then on Tuesday, June 23rd, I'm sorry. I skipped.
Tuesday.
I skipped too fast. Monday, June 22nd, TG Geeks Webcast episode number 279. And then on Tuesday the 23rd, Ben's Gay Breakdown, Love Victor, 3-episode thoughts. On Wednesday the 24th, Ben's Breakdown, The Order, Season 2, 3-episode thoughts. On Thursday the 25th, Capture Lover is the first Chinese BL series after Addicted, and for anybody who wants to know what BL means, that is a Chinese reference to boy love, and it's not. It means same sex, so don't think that it means anything inappropriate, people. And also on that day, Andrea's Angle, Jon Stewart's new comedy is charming, insightful, and irresistible. Clever title there. On Friday the 26th, New Sushi number 102, Morsels of News from Japan and Beyond. And then on Saturday the 27th, This Got Made, hosted by Carlton Tetley, episode number 2. Oh my God, I laughed so hard at that because it's true.
It's true.
It's totally true.
Oh my Lord.
It's genius. And while the subject matter itself is funny, I thought the commentary by Carlton was even funnier. And that's what we ran this last week at tggeeks.com. Have to give some shout-outs. First to the Arkle Times Post-Dispatch News for republishing our content from time to time. It is put out by the human Arkle, Brian Weber. You heard some feedback from him a little bit earlier. You can find the Post-Dispatch News by finding him on Twitter. Do that by searching for Arkle at ARKLE. And he also has had the Shameless Cash Grab season number 4. It is done. It is wrapped up. And that was on Arkle Studios on YouTube, youtube.com/Arkle Studios. And he has picked up on his series Rants versus Zombies. Number 14 is about Supergirl Season 5, and he is continuing to play Star Trek Online. And we must also give some shout-outs to a couple of Facebook groups for also allowing us to post all of our episodes and our relevant content on their pages. First, Two Gay Geeks After Hours. When I asked their moderators if I could share our stuff there, they said, oh, yes, please share away. The URL is facebook.com/groups/Gay Geeks After Hours. And then to The Gay Geek for much the same. And the URL is facebook.com/groups/The Gay Geek. And we must give thanks to their moderator, Jeremiah Reeves.
And lastly, we can be found on Spotify and
Spotify. And what language is that?
Exactly. Find us on Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, as well as where other fine podcasts can be found. Also, check us out on Krypton Radio at 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific Time on Tuesdays. Listen to their other content, their 24-hour geeky internet radio station. Please rate us and review us on iTunes. Rate us and ruin us on iTunes, yes.
Right.
And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can play the episode and surf the internet on your device. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for the webcast episode. We're going to have links on the page of things we talked about. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357 from TG Squared Studios. I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. Please be kind to yourself and others. Stay home, stay safe, stay sane. Peace.
Cheers.